What's up, guys? Welcome to the Penthouse 5 podcast, episode number
8 now, isn't it?
8 now. Yeah.
Excuse
and
me, 8, not using the mic.
If you're on YouTube, what's up? If you're on the podcast platforms and listening, what's up? This is our boy Yuki.
Yeah.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, good, man. Happy to be here with you.
Put it right up to your mouth.
Here?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Does it works?
Yeah.
Happy to be here with you and talk about some topic today. I don't know which is the topic. Should be
Today, I think today we're going to talk about, seeing as you're a fully fledged working musician, we're just going to talk about, things you need to do to get gigs, things about what skills you need to have, what songs you need to know, what kind of attitude you need to have, and the things you need to do to get gigs nowadays, especially because, with Facebook and Instagram and everything, it's not like it used to be 10, 15 years ago. The landscape's changing. So we thought it'd be kind of interesting to speak to you because you're, probably arguably the busiest out of everyone.
Maybe where to start would be, you're from Italy, so you came into a different country to start with, where you didn't speak. Well, you spoke a little bit of English, right? Your English has improved so much anyway since we've met you. But well, maybe start with the skills and stuff. What skills do you think, as a musician, as a professional working musician, the skills you have to at least have to start a working thing?
So, of course, one of the most important things is to, first of all, translate each musical terms in another language, right? To be sure to can communicate with other musicians. Because if you can't communicate with other musicians, you can't work and play, basically. And then, of course, you have to be sure regarding which is the main musical genre that in that country used to play. For example, in Italy, they loves pop music, and is a different kind of pop music. In England, the pop music could be, I don't know, Jacob Collier, Bruno Mars, Beyoncé. In Italy, we got other
the more local talent, like Italian pop music instead of like Western.
Also, the pop music is a different musical genre, right?
Yeah.
It's like an old pop, England pop music, right? So and then maybe to be professional, study this kind of skills, study the music day by day, and try to be a better musician.
Yeah.
Each day, all the time.
And so, for you coming from Italy, coming over to the UK, do you think it's better to study like jazz kind of specifically, or better to focus on classical to kind of get your skills up, or would you just kind of focus on learning pop music, or what did you do anyway?
In England or in general?
Both.
Yeah, I mean, you work a lot in Italy. You just did a tour, right? Like, you were flying all over the place in Italy. Plus, you live in England now, and you work all the time in England. So, you have the best experience of both worlds, of the two separate countries, type thing.
I can say that in Italy we are still unlucky under this point of view, because we don't have any pop music school, for example, or modern music school. We got only classic, the conservatoire, and in the conservatoire you can study classic music and jazz music. That's it. So that is a good step to study how the harmony works, basically. But then, if you want to play pop music, my recommendation is go straight into England and study there. If you want to play jazz music or classical music, of course, maybe it's better if you study before in Italy, and maybe you can integrate your study with a master degree or a PhD, something like that. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Cool. I was going to say, obviously, being from another country coming into England and stuff, obviously you met us, like our band and stuff that you're part of, but we're already based here. What's like sort of the percentage, like how many musicians have you met living in London, like that are not from the UK? Like have you met a lot of musicians? Because there are a lot of musicians that are not from the UK living in London, right? Like working musicians and stuff.
Yeah. To meet musicians in London, just you need to go outside from your house and go in a club. A random club, right? And you'll met a lot of musicians in London. There are a billion of musicians,
but they're from all over the world, right?
Yeah, from all over the world. And I don't know, there is an high quality standard
Mm.
regarding the musicians and the music, because they comes from all over the world. So their skills are mixed with
Yeah.
other musical genre, and that is a cool thing.
Yeah.
For example, I played, I had a jam session with this Brazilian bass player,
Mm-hmm.
and he was kind of very rhythmic perception of the
Yeah,
music.
that music style over there is very
Exactly.
much like that.
Because
Yeah.
in Brazil, the rhythm is very important. As well as if you take a musician coming from, I don't know, Russia or Polonia, Polish musician, they are focused mainly on the melody. So their style will be a very melodic style.
Yeah.
of the music. So yeah, every
Wow,
time. Yeah,
that's
it's
very
interesting.
highlighting. Yeah,
yeah.
that is very cool.
Just to say as well, I suppose London's got to be one of the best places in the world for that, though, because it's one of the most
Definitely.
multicultural cities in the world. And so it's, for music, that's amazing because, like you say, you're going to be, chances are you go down to a jazz club or whatever to go and jam or to work with new musicians, you know, you're going to be talking to and playing with people from all over the world. So you can kind of pick and choose your favorite parts from all of these different genres that you've never really done before. You know, you could be some guy could be doing some calypso groove and you could be like, oh no, I haven't done that since I was 15 in high school and I was doing it on, you know, so and then you could incorporate that into your style. And so I can imagine it's a really good way to pick up new tricks dealing with people, instead of, you know, if you were dealing with you know, all English people or all Welsh people or something, then you're a little bit more confined to what the people in that area kind of get up to. So I can imagine that would help as well.
Yeah, for example, to give you an example, before to come here, I never heard about Irish songs and this kind of music.
Like traditional music,
Yeah.
like from Ireland and that.
But I actually did for gigs in the St. Patrick period, in which I played only Irish ballads in Irish pubs with only Irish guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, or and I'll go to play in Liverpool to play in what's the name of that musical genre? The country? No, the bluegrass.
Bluegrass.
With a banjo player,
Oh, nice.
a double bass player,
Yeah.
and an acoustic guitar. So
Nice.
yeah, every time
Yeah.
you find different things and you can learn a lot of different tricks.
Nice, man. Nice.
Especially playing with this guy.
Maybe let's talk about like some of the skill sets you think are important, and obviously us as well. Like, so for example, like how important in your career at the moment has sight reading been? Like, so a musician, if you're studying music at uni or college or something, like being able to read written music, how important is that?
It depends
in your
from
experience?
it depends from what you have to do. If you want to play, for example, in a musical, that is a very common thing in London. London is like the European Broadway for musical. We can say that. And if you want to play in an orchestra or in a musical, definitely you must to be a sights reader, right? But if you want to just play in a function band, or you want to play with also pop star if you want. Yeah. So I think, in my opinion, you don't need it. You can do it. Maybe it helps.
So yeah, it's a good skill to have regardless.
Yeah.
But
Depends on what you want to do, though. Like
Yeah.
what you're after.
Exactly.
yeah, I would say that as well. I think my ear, I was kind of lucky in the sense that ever since I was quite young, I was you know, blessed to have a pretty decent ear, so I've always been able to pick up things fairly quickly, and that's been a really strong skill that I've really heavily relied on, especially when, you know, if you're a new member of a function band, and let's say the function band had like 250 songs in their set list, you might be going to work on a cruise ship, and it's like, right, you've got a week to learn all this stuff, or like 10 days. You know, if you're so reliant on sight reading, then you're sight reading on the cruise ships, and you know, you go to see Justin Timberlake or Bruno Mars, no one's got lead sheets in front of them, it's all from memory. So that's where but for me that's been really helpful. So I think it would be a good idea, if you weren't as strong with your ear, to maybe kind of focus on your oral AURAL skills and work on that, because I think that would be really beneficial. Maybe moving aside from skills, I think we were kind of talking about earlier on in the journey here. For me, one of the most important things regarding your attitude, if you want to be a strong musician, is to, and it sounds like such a basic thing, but to be reliable and to turn up on time. Like, it doesn't matter if you're the greatest guitarist in the world. If you're being flaky as fuck and they can't contact you and you're not turning up to gigs and coming up with excuses, then people are just going to drop you. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not turning up on time to do the job, then, you know, I'd much rather have a 7 out of 10, you know, solid musician who's not incredible but that knows his stuff and can do the job work competently, and he's got a really good attitude and he always turns up and he never lets me down.
I think on that point,
Agree.
maybe like it would be a 50-50 split or a 60-40 split on like half of it being you have to be like physically capable to play your instrument and the ear and all that, and then the other half it's like that big a percentage of being the good person, being like reliable. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're both important, right? You can have someone who's really good, like you say, but shit, turn up, cancels, don't want to do it, don't want, like, wants more money or something like that. And then there's, do you know what I mean? Like, so there's.
But at the same time, if you're, if you are really reliable, but you're just you know you don't have that basic theory,
You don't have the chops.
then you're only gonna go so far, and you're gonna.
You gotta have both.
Exactly.
Really important to have both. Yeah. What else would you say is important as a musician? Someone you want to work with,
as
maybe.
you said, 60% and 40%.
Mm.
Because especially if you are a session man or a dub musician, like the example of before, you definitely need to be reliable, to be affordable, to be prepared. All of these skills, anyway, they are important. And
Yeah.
I think 50-50. If
Yeah.
you want to be a good musician, you have to be all of this.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as that, just kind of going back to the attitude, all of my favourite musicians, all of the people that I love working with, they're people that I respect as musicians, but like you say, at least 50-50 split, if not more. They're people that I just enjoy working with, people that I like as friends. That's, you know, that's part of the reason why it's so fun, you know, playing with you two. Is because you're both incredible musicians, and it really makes me raise my game, and so it's inspirational to work with you. But at the same time, you're both really good, decent people, and really friendly, and you know, it's just, you know, two really good friends of mine. So that would be another thing. Like, you know, try not to turn up and be making sarky jokes and fucking around, and you know, you want to try and make a good impression, and just get on well with as many people as you can.
I would say on top of that, with the being on good terms with someone, if it's, for example, a position where like you're working with someone who whatever their skill set is, right, if they're a nightmare to work with, then it reduces your playing, right? It reduces, because it gets you mentally, and then your mental affects your physical playing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Definitely.
Because you're going to be focused on the wrong things. You're gonna be thinking about, this guy's said something, he's been a real prick.
Yeah, and then you're not focused on the music, the reading, the chord changes, or something like that, and your head is somewhere else, a different space, isn't it? So, yeah, that's what I'd say as well. What other skills would you say are important? Any other skills you got? So, like sight reading, obviously technical aspects, or maybe technical.
Technical. I mean, if you want to work today, you should also to understand something about computers, technology.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with musicians in general. You have to be able to do pretty much everything, right? You have to know the equipment you're working with. You have to know the music, like it all just takes so much. Yeah, and again, if you're running your like tuition business, like your own private tuition, or a musician yourself, like, you have to be able to market yourself and advertise, and do you know what I mean? Like, be able to sell yourself and stuff like that. You know, like there's so many like strings you have to have to your bow, really. Is that right?
Yeah. Especially if you want to make it doing original music. You know, nowadays the record labels don't have anywhere near the power that they used to have 20 years, and the money, because, you know, it's all digital downloads. Then they're not selling CDs anymore, so the majority of the money is coming out of tours for musicians. And so if you're an aspiring musician who wants to write your own stuff and make it that way, a record label nowadays isn't going to gamble on some kid with some potential. Like, you have to, like you say, you have to brand yourself and market yourself and create your own following and create your own buzz. So it's not, nowadays, it's not just about writing good music now. Like, you can write the best song in the world, but if no one's going to hear it, then you ain't going to make it. And it's harder and harder to get your stuff heard, because anyone can download their stuff or upload their stuff onto Spotify. You're just a drop in the ocean nowadays. So you do really have to, it would be really beneficial if you were a musician to, work on a little bit of basic Photoshop, try and get onto Adobe or the editing software, so you can make your own promos, put your own artwork and posters together, and put things on Instagram that are going to catch people's eye, and then do some reading into marketing and how to grab attention nowadays in social media, things like that. We listen a lot to Gary V, who's hugely influential to our kind of way of thinking on how we try to market stuff and brand ourselves as a high tier function band. So you got to be as have the business smarts as much as the musical attributes. So more and more nowadays you're kind of on your own with that aspect. So you need to that's really good. If you're really serious about it, it's definitely worth reading up about it.
Or I'd say maybe work with someone who is. If your skill set isn't business, then maybe a music. So because like some musicians have different strengths, right? Like you play bass, you play guitar, you play drums, you play keyboard, but individual musicians have different strengths as well. Someone might be more associated with like video editing. Outside of that, someone might be more of like a sound techie guy. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone has different elements. So if you can get like the perfect band would be, everyone's a great musician, everyone's good friends, but then also everyone has different skills outside of being a musician, videos or whatever it is,
If you're at university, if there's any kids watching that are at university, take advantage of the people of the friends. If you were starting up a function band, you could become really good friends with a guy on one of the more tech related music courses, and bang, you've got your engineer. If you're really good friends with him and he's willing to roll with you, then you've got an engineer with you, which is so hard to get. Then if you've got other friends that are doing a business studies course or marketing, get friends with them, get chummy, see how that works. Then bang, you've got a marketing mate who you can, get ideas off of, or even get him into the team. And all of a sudden, you're building this portfolio of contacts that are really going to help you out long term, all for free, because you've met them at uni, you're there anyway. Just go and have a pint with them, say hello, speak to them.
Maybe a question for you would be, how have you found like networking with musicians in London? You say like you go to gigs and you meet people. What's your experience with like just meeting musicians? And obviously that's how you've gotten gigs, is it? Or so like maybe how have you got gigs? How's the best way you got?
There are several ways. Of course, you need a website, business cards, all the things that you need to sell yourself, as you told before. And then maybe you should to meet people in person and use the social networks as well. Like there are a lot of Facebook pages like Deaf Musicians and Jam Session pages and gig clubs pages that you can use to meet people and know about gigs, venues in which you can be a deaf musician, or this kind of things, I guess.
I suppose just to expand on that, it's a good friend of mine who I went to high school with, Daniel Casimir. If he's listening, what's up, Dan? He's doing an incredible job at the minute. He's writing his own original jazz musician, and he's touring the world for his band, and he's doing an incredible job. And I remember asking him just after a night out, I was having a drink with him a while ago, and I said, like, well, how did you meet all of these people? Because he's going to international jazz festivals everywhere. How do you meet these guys? And he said 90% of the work I do, if he's not doing his own jazz work, he's playing double bass for loads of big artists, and it's going to jam nights. Just go down to jam nights in London, go off and jam with people. If you get on with them, go and have a word afterwards. Like, he gets 90%, he said, of his work all from jam nights, which is just blew my mind. That's such a huge percentage just from that.
It's a free thing to turn up to. You rock up for free, don't cost you nothing except your time.
If you are into your jazz, get a real book, learn some jazz standards, jump off and play the chicken or Spain or whatever. And if you get on with someone, you jam with someone, then there's a contact there. And so, if you're more into, if you're studying jazz at university or college or whatever, then that's definitely a massive thing to consider, because that's something that I don't do that much, because my jazz chops aren't probably good enough to really to shine on like a jam stage. That's probably something that I need to work on a bit more. I mean, Yuki, you're definitely at that level. So have you done that at all?
not yet.
Is that something you'd like to do though?
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
So like, what else other than Facebook? Like, what other ways would you get?
Yeah,
gigs, do you reckon?
I mean, I did several jam sessions. You were talking about jam sessions, right?
How do you get into those, and how do you find them?
I don't know. Sometimes by musician's friend that I already had, or sometimes I've just seen the written outside the club, and I just came in.
Go in.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. That's what I did in the first period of time in which I arrived in London. But
That's props to you. That's props to you for being proactive and going out there and finding this.
Well, that's maybe that's the main thing, is the work. Never as a musician, maybe other jobs, but from our experience, never as a musician is work going to come to you. You have to go out and find it until you meet loads of musicians, and then it becomes a part where, like, musicians recommend you. Like, but that takes a long time. Yeah.
With your web
Build the
network.
web. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something else as well?
No. I was just telling that the jam session is definitely the best way to do it. Since I don't know 20s, because this part of the music is always worked like this. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a good way. I got a question for you. Maybe it's a little bit off topic, but coming back on the technologies, in which measure the homemade production changed the musical tastes of people? What do you reckon?
What you mean? The fact that people nowadays can just create everything from home.
Yeah, I noticed that during the last 10 years, 15 years, the quality of the standards of the music are cut down. So
I think part of that would be my guess. I've spoke to, certainly because I used to work for a composer. I went on placement with him as part of my degree, and I certainly was speaking with other kind of engineers that we've worked with. I think part of the reason for that is because everyone can just download Logic and everyone has a laptop and you can record everything at home. There's before you had to go and find an expert to go and do that. You had to go and pay to go in a studio and record your stuff. But now anyone can do it, and because anyone can do it, you've got all these young people coming out of college going, oh no, I'll produce that for free. I'll do it for free so I can get, something on my CV or a bit more exposure or whatever. Because kind of going back to the last podcast we did. And it's watering down the market, and it's bringing down the prices that people used to pay. Because all of these people, they all want to make a name for themselves. So they're thinking, I'll do it for free and then next time I can charge. But when you've got 1,000 people doing that, then the guy who's like, well, I've been doing it for 15, 20 years, I'm a pro, and all these guys are taking work off of me and doing it for free. So now people are thinking, well, why should I pay you that amount?
But I guess the only way to combat that would be so fucking good that your price is this. It never wavers because you're better than all these other people. That's the only way, right? Like,
But it's also difficult to start.
Oh yeah, for sure. To start that,
yeah.
but you have to I guess you just have to keep perfecting your craft, keep going up and up and up until you come out on top, and then you have that reputation and people know you, and it's like, this is the level I'm at. I'm way above everyone else or a lot of people, so it costs this much to get this level.
I think it's similar for us in our position as well. I mean, there are certain exceptions. If we were to get a gig where it was a lower fee than normal, but it was just, an incredible opportunity, then sometimes you have to jump on that. But by and large, you've got to be brave enough and you've got to believe in your own product and the service you provide to say, I'm really sorry, but this is our level. We've worked really hard. We feel we put forward a really strong product. And sometimes you've got to be brave enough to say, no, I'm really sorry, but this is the level, and if you can't pay that, we can't do the gig. Sometimes you might miss out on a gig, but long term, you keep that credibility.
What you should do if your aim is to do a lot of gigs and your level is quite high?
Well, I was going to say that point's good, but I would say you can't start there, obviously, because the market will say if you're good or not, right? If people,
you've got no experience.
yeah, but like I would say, like, you you have to have a demand. Like, you know, if your business, guitarist or band or whatever it is getting a high demand of customers, and you're maybe like turning away gigs and like, sorry man, I can't do that gig because I'm already booked or something like that, then that's when you be like, right, my price goes up now to filter out this so people can afford, you know, who can afford me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's why I'd say on your point on top of it sort of thing, you know.
Yeah, I feel like if you're constantly lowballing yourself, it's going to be hard when you do raise those prices. I think that
that's why I'm saying you got to wait until you're getting so busy. Like when you're busy that you're turning away gigs, that's when you can make a switch and be like, right, my price is going up now. You know what I mean?
But it's like, you know, it's like, say if you're starting out as a function band, you know, when we started, we still didn't say, all right, well, we do gigs for like a tenner each now and just petrol money. Like we still said, you know, we worked hard to produce, you know, a really high level of musicianship and showmanship.
We already had the experience of like 10, 15 years prior to that. Do you know what I mean? If you're in college and you're just starting out, then maybe a 50 quid like is a starting point, because like you got to build up the price maybe reflects where you're at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, when you're a kid, you don't have to worry about as much about money. It's just about getting the reps in.
You got that rent to pay.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this maybe could be a problem.
Yeah.
Coming back on the other speech, because maybe you just started the college and you propose to yourself for 50 quid, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But how much matters the quality of the music for the owner of a club or for
Nothing.
So who the owner of the club will call to perform?
Anyone
So
probably
guys,
within reason.
college.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. That's the way it goes, and that's the way it's always been, man. That's the way. It doesn't matter what the venue is, unless it's a specific music venue which has like top acts only. Then you get into a different thing. But yeah, for sure, I know what you're talking about.
The way to say in Italy is a dog that bites his tail.
Yeah.
It's like
Round and round and round. Yeah.
Like you said before, like the only way to combat that really is just, you know, make yourself so good that people just can't say anything other than, okay, we'll make that price because you are the nuts. You're the best.
They even want you that bad, and they'll pay the price that you set. Or they don't care.
There's some venues just don't have a very high bar, and so, you know,
you either play it at the price or you just don't play it. I think that's it, isn't it, really? But we're running out of time here. We've got a couple of minutes left. Just before we finish, then let's just like, you know, wrap off some. Let's just say some things that we think skill set wise, you know, anyone out there who's a young musician who wants to be a session player or whatever, let's just think of some. So you know, I'll start with sight reading is probably important, but it depends on what type of gig you want to go after. So sight reading would be for the theatres, for cruise ships. I did that, the orchestra type thing. What other skills would, like, you just name a skill that you think is important?
A skill, yeah, just work on your ear. Try and work on listening to a song that you don't know and trying to play it without any other reference and working on that. I think that's a skill that if you can improve that technique of listening to something and playing it quite quickly, that's going to really benefit you in the long run.
Yeah.
Skill set for you?
Try to hear only your favorite musicians and try to improve in your favorite music, because I noticed that a lot of guys try to be
everywhere
and
jazz, rock, blues,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's
Be
impossible.
niche. Be more niche.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my
perfect, man. You got another one? I'm trying to think. I would just say, actually, I was literally going to say that. I was just going to say attitude. Being timely, being nice to people, being friendly, not hard to work with, don't cause drama, be there, do your job, show up early, you know.
That's at least 50% as important as all the skills. So, you know, as good as you are, if you're acting like a dick, you're probably not going to get called back.
And be nice to people. That's the point thing. What other skills? What other skills can we say? Oh, we've got 10 seconds. All right, fuck it. Penthouse 5 podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching on YouTube.
Tune your instrument.
Peace out.